For a brief time, I lived in two worlds. In one, I was the daughter who obeyed, who laughed at dinner, who helped Lily with her school projects. In the other, I was a girl in love, hidden, breathless, reckless. But secrets don't stay hidden forever. Lily grew colder. She stopped asking questions and started watching instead. Her silences were louder than any confrontation. Then, one evening, while I was texting Daniel from the hallway, she appeared behind me. "Dad doesn't deserve this," she whispered. My fingers froze above the screen. "Lily," she raised a hand. "I haven't told him, but I will, if this doesn't stop." I begged her for time. I swore it wasn't serious. I promised I'd talk to Daniel, that I'd do the right thing. And I meant it, at least in that moment. The next day, I sent Daniel a message asking to meet. He didn't reply. I tried again. Nothing. Days passed. Silence. My worry turned to dread. I called once, straight to voicemail. He had never ignored me like this. Then, in a moment that felt both surreal and cruel, I found out the truth. Not from him, but from someone else entirely. Sophia, my closest friend from college, called me, her voice bubbling with excitement. "Guess what? I'm dating someone. Daniel, you remember him, right? We met at that coffee shop a while back." Her words hit like glass shattering inside my chest. I couldn't speak. I could barely breathe. Daniel wasn't just avoiding me. He had been two-timing us, playing a game with hearts he had no intention of keeping. That kiss, those conversations, the stolen moments, they were never his promises. They were just experiments. I felt sick, humiliated, betrayed. But more than anything, I felt stupid. I had broken the one rule that mattered most in our home, for someone who never took me seriously. I confronted him, needing closure. He didn't deny it. His voice was calm, almost bored. "I liked you," he said. "But I didn't think you'd take it so seriously. You knew the risks." The cruelty in his indifference cut deeper than any lie. I left without another word. Back home I sat, in silence, the weight of my choices pressing against my chest like a stone. I didn't tell Lily what happened. I didn't tell my father. The shame was mine to carry, and I wasn't ready to let anyone else bear it. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, tears spilling into my pillow. I had broken the rule. I had lost Daniel, and somehow I was the one left holding all the broken pieces. But even then, I knew. This wasn't the end. Some truths can't stay hidden forever. To be continued. The days that followed were steeped in quiet. Not the peaceful kind, but the heavy, loaded kind that settled over everything like a storm cloud refusing to break. I walked through the house like a shadow of myself, silent, alert, constantly bracing for the moment the truth would surface. But it never did. Lily never spoke of Daniel again. Her eyes met mine once with a sharpness that said she knew everything, even what I wasn't saying. But she kept her promise. She didn't tell Dad, and I didn't ask her why. Maybe she pitied me. Maybe she simply knew some pain had to be carried alone. I thought about confessing, about coming clean to my father and accepting whatever consequences came. But every time I imagined the disappointment in his eyes, the silence that would follow, I swallowed the truth all over again. I had already broken the rule. Did admitting it now undo the betrayal, or just deepen the wound? So, I buried it. Buried Daniel. Buried the version of me that thought love could be worth risking everything for. But grief has a strange way of transforming us. I began helping my father more around the house. Not out of guilt, but out of gratitude. Gratitude for the quiet love he'd given me all these years without asking for anything in return. The man who guarded our home with strict rules wasn't cruel. He was scared. Scared that what happened to Mom would happen to us. That love, when mishandled, would leave another hole in our family too wide to fill. In that understanding, I found forgiveness, not just for him, but for myself. Weeks passed. The pain dulled. My heart, though bruised, began to beat a little stronger. I focused on school, on Lily, on being present in my life again without letting the shadows of what had happened haunt every step. There were nights I still thought about Daniel. Not with longing, but with the kind of clarity that only comes after betrayal. He was never mine to begin with. I learned to live with the silence, to accept that some stories don't need to be told to everyone to still matter. Some truths, when exposed, only fracture more than they fix. And so I chose to keep it hidden, not out of fear, but because I had already paid the price. I didn't need punishment. I needed peace. And I found it, in small places, in the smell of coffee on quiet mornings, in Lily's laughter returning, in my father's hand resting briefly on my shoulder at dinner, as if to say he still trusted me, even if he didn't know everything. No, I wasn't the same girl who once believed rules kept you safe from heartbreak. But I was someone new. Someone who knew that sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones you carry in silence. It was a Friday evening when the weight of my suspicions could no longer be held in silence. I had told Maria I'd be working late, a white lie meant to give me space. But instead, I returned home early, driven by a gnawing instinct I couldn't suppress. As I stepped through the front door, the living room lights were dim. The air was still, thick with a hush that didn't belong in a home. From the hallway, I heard faint murmurs, Maria's voice, soft and low, followed by David's laughter. I moved quietly, standing just beyond the archway. They were seated closely on the couch, bodies angled inward. She was smiling, truly smiling, the kind I hadn't seen directed at me in weeks. David leaned in, whispering something that made her cover her mouth with her hand, stifling a laugh. The moment they noticed me, the spell shattered. They both straightened too quickly. Maria's expression froze. David's jaw clenched. "You're home," she said, eyes wide. "I thought you had meetings until late?" I nodded slowly, watching the way they avoided looking at each other. Plans changed. David stood abruptly. "I'll be in my room," he muttered, brushing past me without waiting for a response. His shoulder grazed mine, and the tension in that brief contact said more than words ever could. Once he was gone, I sat across from Maria. She looked at me, guarded. "What's going on between you two?" I asked, my voice calm but heavy. She blinked, feigning confusion. "What do you mean?" "Don't lie to me, Maria, I see it. The closeness, the secrets, the way you look at him." Her lips parted, then closed again. When she finally spoke, it was a whisper. "You're imagining things." "No," I said firmly. "I'm feeling things, and feelings don't lie." She dropped her gaze. "David's been supportive lately. Things between us have just been..." She trailed off as if realizing the implication. "He understands me in ways you haven't lately." The words pierced deeper than any confession. She didn't deny the emotional intimacy. She justified it. Later that night, after Maria had gone to bed, I sat alone in the kitchen. I opened her phone, unlocked, unattended. I didn't intend to, but my hand moved on its own. I wasn't looking for graphic proof, just clarity. The messages were short, cryptic. "David, I wish we could just be honest." "Maria, we can't. He's not ready." I didn't need anything more. There had been no affair in the physical sense, at least not one I could confirm. But what I read, what I saw in their eyes, what I felt, it was betrayal. The kind that didn't leave bruises but left you hollow. I closed the phone gently, as though afraid it might scream the truth aloud. That night, I didn't sleep. Because now I knew. Even if I hadn't seen it with my eyes, my heart had been watching the whole time. The next morning, the house felt colder. Quieter in a way that didn't come from silence but from avoidance. Maria moved about the kitchen, preparing breakfast like it was any other day. Her movements were deliberate, almost robotic, as if going through motions would erase the night before. I sat at the table, coffee untouched, eyes heavy from a sleepless night. David came downstairs, barely glancing at me. He muttered a morning and headed straight for the door. "David," I called, my voice firmer than I intended. He stopped, hand on the knob, back turned. You don't have to say anything, I continued. I just need to know, was it ever going to stop? He hesitated, then opened the door and walked out. No denial, no anger, just retreat. Maria placed a plate in front of me, scrambled eggs, toast. My favorites. I didn't touch them. Why him? I asked quietly. She stood frozen, the pan, still in her hand. You were always gone. And when you were here, you were distant. David listened. He saw me. I saw you, I said, my voice shaking. But I trusted you. Her face crumbled for the first time. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Did anything physical happen? The question felt hollow, like it could change what I already knew. She hesitated. No, but we crossed a line. I know we did. The confession didn't offer relief, only confirmation. I nodded slowly, stood, and walked to the sink. The clink of my wedding ring against the counter as I removed it was the only sound in the room. I need space, I said. From both of you. Maria looked at me, tears brimming but didn't argue. She knew she'd already lost something that couldn't be mended with apologies. I left the house that afternoon, checking into a modest hotel nearby. The room was plain, white walls, neutral bedding, but it gave me room to breathe. That night, I stared at the ceiling, asking myself over and over what had gone wrong. Was it my fault? Was I blind? Or had I just chosen to trust someone who never deserved it? Days passed. Maria called. I didn't answer. David texted once. I never meant to hurt you. I read it, then deleted it. Eventually, I returned home, not to resume life as it was, but to end the chapter cleanly. We sat down like two strangers, dividing memories into boxes, emotions into fragile explanations. Maria wanted forgiveness, but she didn't ask for reconciliation. And I couldn't offer either, not yet. There was no dramatic ending, no shouting, no doors slamming. Just a quiet parting of paths that had been diverging long before I admitted it. Now I live alone. I still think of Maria sometimes. Not with anger, but with sorrow. As for David, I doubt I'll ever see him again. I hadn't seen it myself, at first, but I had felt it. And in the end, that feeling told the truth louder than any proof ever could.